Hi everyone, I'm Sinora Roath. Today I have a guest with me and I'm so excited to introduce him to you guys, and that is the ambassador of the US Embassy, Mr. W. Patrick Murphy.
Sonora, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you for having me today.
Welcome to the residence. I've been excited to meet you.
Thank you, thank you.
I know your music. I know your leadership. I've heard so much great things about you. Welcome. Good to be with you.
This is such a nice place.
We're celebrating Pride Month.
Right.
I'm very excited about that.
I'm so excited that you're here with me and celebrating Pride Month with us. And I think it's an honor for everybody in the community. How have you been doing? How's everything recently?
Hey, we're doing okay. We're staying busy. These are challenging times for the entire world. Cambodia is no exception. But we have a lot of foreign assistance programs here helping with public health. And I am confident that we will get through this together. But in the meantime, we can continue celebrating what's really important to celebrate. Pride Month is a great opportunity, but I'll tell you the truth. For us, we like to look at every month as being Pride Month. And the LGBTI community is one that deserves full support. And so that's partially why we're talking today. We congratulate you on all of your efforts.
On all my efforts trying to make people understand that we're not weird.
We're all a little bit weird. That's the way I look at it, right? All of us.
I saw your recent discussion on gender equality and I could feel the passion. I was like, oh my God, he's so passionate about the topic. I wonder, was that the motivation for you that you started to join the public service, and if not, what was it?
I would say there are two ways to answer that question for me. One is professional, one's personal. Professionally, I have been a diplomat for more than 30 years. Around the world, I have seen time and time again, when there is gender equality, our societies do better, particularly when women are given the opportunity to lead and contribute at the community level and the national level. And there's more peace, there's more stability, there's greater prosperity when there is this kind of equality. It's the same in the United States. This is a work in progress. We now have the first woman vice president of the United States. Someday we'll have the first president. That's good progress. In the meantime, you see inequality when it comes to pay in the United States and around the world. So we're working on that.
Yeah.
And here too as well. Personally, I'm surrounded by strong women, both at the embassy and in the US government where I work, and at home. I have a wife, two of my children are daughters. My former mother-in-law, who passed away last year, was a very strong woman who lived with us. So I was surrounded by strong women who know what it's like to experience and see inequality, but also know that with strong efforts and support from men that they could do better and have these equal opportunities. So I'm very proud of all that they do, and I'm just a big champion for all of those reasons for gender equality. But more importantly, regardless of gender choice, the LGBTI community is very inclusive. And as an American, we like inclusivity. So that's why I am in part drawn to supporting the community, and I feel like I'm a part of the community because we're all in this together. Right. How have you become a leader within this community?
I think I wouldn't call myself a leader yet. I've been just starting out for like 2 years.
But you're an inspiration to many.
Thank you. That's a compliment. And I'm an artist, so I write music, I sing, I produce, and I had my 2 albums out. And both of them were made on my phone. You heard it right. I produced both of my albums on my phone.
I hope it was an American iPhone.
I don't know what iPhone that was. It was on an app called GarageBand. The app that you get for free when you purchase an iPhone.
That's right.
And because of that, through music, I built myself a platform. So I decided to use my platform for something that's truly important for me, which was the LGBTI rights. And I did just that. And I'm just happy that people agree with me on my platform. And yeah.
Well, I have had a chance to listen to some of your music and see your music videos. Phenomenal.
Thank you.
Puts me in a great mood, makes me want to dance. But I understand you also write your own music.
Right.
How did you come about doing that at such a young age? That really takes some talent.
I felt like trauma. I feel like because I had a lot of stuff that I wanted to say, which I wasn't being able to talk to anyone but music, because before it was hard for me to find people who would understand me. And so I had to write it down and just write music. And yeah, and that's how people really like my music for my lyric, because they could feel the pain in it.
Mm. And since we are celebrating Pride Month, Sinora, I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about what Pride means for you.
I think it means so much to me because as a person who grew up in a country where I don't know the exact term, but I was not exposed to the LGBTI community. I had no knowledge about it. So I couldn't help but feeling lost when I was young. So I was like, what am I? Why am I not the same person as the one I see on TV? Why am I not the same as that person over there, you know?
It sounds to me like you're saying before you knew there was this community, you were on your own.
Right.
So in discovering a community, do you feel some sense of support and solidarity? Nice not to be
really until recently.
Until recently.
Yeah, until recently because I, like I said, I feel so lost. So I was like, okay, what am I? And that's why I just found out that I'm trans like 4 years ago, because I had no idea who I was. And to see people celebrate Pride is like, okay, at least it's a relief. At least the next generation is not going to be as lost as I was, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just happy that they just start celebrating Pride, and it means a lot to me.
And have you felt support from fans, friends, family in expressing your identity?
I got support from my fans and my friends, of course, but my family not fully yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm working on it.
Working on it, good.
I hope one day they will be like, okay, she's a human too, okay? Just let her love whoever she wants to.
That's right. That's right. It takes time, doesn't it?
Talking about the LGBTI community, I really want to know what it's like when it was in your teenage years. Like, do you have a family member, or do you have like a friend who were closeted or openly a part of the community?
I'll tell you something about those days, which was quite some time ago, but I was a teenager, late 1970s. This was a time where it was virtually impossible to identify as being LGBTI. There was no knowledge about these acronyms and the identities. And for me, I think I realize in hindsight, with some degree of regret, that my friends were suffering, and that I could have, with a little bit more information, been more supportive. Because I could tell now in hindsight, when I think back, it was very, very difficult for them. There was a lot of stigma, a lot of discrimination, a lot of bullying, a lot of harassment. And this is without even identifying, without coming out of the closet, if you will, to use the expression. And keep in mind, there were no community organizations to support. There was certainly no legal framework to offer support either. But years later, I think what was obvious at the time, many people were part of this community. And these days have much greater opportunity to identify, to get support, to be themselves from family and friends. It is not perfect. Yes, I do have family members and friends who identify as LGBTI and a few other acronyms as well. But there are still challenges with discrimination, with bias, and sometimes with harassment, but it's becoming much better, particularly as you ask about high school support for young people to be who they want to be, free of discrimination, and the ability to get support within the community from outside the community. So it's been a sea change. It's been a huge, huge sea change. I was very excited that the United States legalized same-sex marriage a few years ago. In fact, I was next door in Thailand when our Supreme Court made that decision, and we had a chance to celebrate there with the LGBTI community.
Wow.
Of course, those rights are not available in most places here in the sub-region, but it's a good model, and I like to think that we can share that success around the world. But that was a great day. I remember it very, very vividly.
Right. But before, really, you can't really blame yourself because we weren't exposed to the knowledge either. We weren't exposed to the LGBTI community either, so we really had no idea. So at least now the progress has been made and people are changing to support and changing to give them their rights, rightfully so, that they need to be themselves. And I'm just happy that we see changes now. I mean, like till now, I still get discriminated I still get discriminated every day by a lot of people. Only some people, not everybody.
Now, Sinora, can I ask about that?
Right.
Is it overt, and is it in your daily life? Is it in social media and anonymous? You know, what are the forms of harassment and discrimination here in Cambodia?
For me, it's social media, because when people meet me face to face, they wouldn't dare to say it. And that's just when I realized that how small they are. When they're hating on you, they're just small because they wouldn't say it in front of your face, to your face. They would say it anonymously on social media. They would say with their real names on social media, but it's all behind the screen. Like, if you're actually strong, come talk to me, give me your opinion. But then no one have ever did that. Whenever I come around, they always, if they don't like me, they just move along.
I'd like to ask your advice and your counsel. How can members of general community be of greatest help to the LGBTI community? What are the kind of actions and words and efforts that we can undertake that would be the most helpful?
I think the most helpful is to respect them and listen to them. And some people listen to them and then judge them. Don't do that. Some people listen to them and then just can't really put themselves in our shoes. Like, can't be nice about it. Some people would ask very offensive questions, you know, stuff like, which one's the wife, which one's the husband, like stuff like that. And I don't think maybe to a lot of people it doesn't sound offensive, but imagine a man and a woman who's a couple, and you go to them and ask, "What's your favorite position?" That's my personal time. Like, don't ask, you know. And I think just people have the greatest thing is to be there for them and be respectful, and that's the yeah.
I think you're very well known to many of our viewers, but for those who haven't, I encourage them to see Sinora's music videos, her talks, very inspirational, really talented, great music. Fills me with a lot of energy and enthusiasm. You know, I like Khmer pop music, if I could say.
Yeah.
And you have a special brand within Khmer pop.
Right. I just trying to make something that's not really been done before. In Cambodia, we have a lot of ballad. And I want to do something that's like, oof, a bit upbeat, you know, but not too upbeat that we're like, okay, let's dance. But I'm just gonna sing about sad songs with upbeat music, and somehow it works.
Now, have you had the chance to, in the past, perform live with audiences?
Yeah, I perform live a lot of time with organization and also stages and events. And I think the last one was for my own album. It was like a listening session, but then COVID happened.
It's one of the things I miss during the pandemic is live music.
How often do you join music events? Because I know you're very busy.
Well, keep in mind that COVID came about after I was in Cambodia for only 6 months. So I had a few opportunities, but I never miss an opportunity to see and listen to live music here, even growing up, always going to concerts and festivals. And I look forward to being able to do that again. One, to support singers and musicians and entertainers, but also that sense of community when you have a music festival or a concert.
Right.
You're with many people you don't know. You're with strangers. You're just enjoying. That's right. Yeah, it's a great part of living.
Right.
Music, and I just love music. So.
And there's just something about live music that you're like, oh my God, the person sings so good live, and the voice, the sound system is good. You get goosebumps every time people hit high notes. You know, just all that feelings. How I miss that feeling.
Now, one of the concerts I did get to see before COVID came about was up in Battambang.
Oh.
And it was support for the LGBTI community. Oh. It was a wonderful program that our US AID office supports. And all of the entertainers who did a little bit of a fashion show, some lip syncing, and also some live performances. All of them were representatives from the LGBTI community, particularly transgender. And I'll give you my impressions. This was in a rural community, but there were probably 400 members of the audience who had come from the local town to enjoy. I mean, I think they were attracted by all the lights and the sound, but I was super impressed. It was very clear what the concert was about.
Right.
There was a vice governor who gave some remarks, and she was very supportive of the community, but the audience was super receptive. And these were farmers and villagers, family members, of course, and friends. So I was given some encouragement that in Cambodia there can be some progress to support the LGBTI community.
Like I was talking about earlier, it's kind of a blessing for us because here we don't get jumped. If you're in a man's body and you dress up as a woman, in some countries you might get jumped. You might get punched in the face. But here people don't do that, and that's a good thing. And that's like a blessing for us and a very easy way for us to actually start progressing on respecting each other.
Well, I can tell you, I think Pride Month speaks to that, because Pride Month has its origins in the United States and the movement in the 1960s in New York City, when members of the community were being harassed, including by law enforcement, and finally got to a breaking point and had enough and pushed back and paid a heavy price in the short term, but in the long term really opened the door to a movement of legal changes and support and broader understanding in the general public about what it means to be who you want to be who you are, and to live freely, and to love who you want to love. And so we're kind of proud of the origins of Pride Month, and we're delighted to see around the world that the movement of support for equality and respect continues to expand. I appreciate that you've given me and others some good advice and counsel how we can be supportive of the LGBTI community. What issues do you think are the most important to focus on here in Cambodia and in other countries when it comes to LGBTI rights and equality?
I haven't experienced enough in other countries, but in Cambodia, I think the thing that comes to my mind, there's two things. The first thing I want the community to become an ally, to be there for each other, to stand for each other, respect each other. We have enough people outside the community trying to tear us down, and we do not want that in the community. Like when I first came out as trans, some people were saying that I did it for attention. If I really wanted attention, why should I choose something that is so rare that most of y'all can't even relate to me, you know? Like stuff like that, it's very disrespectful. And I just want people to be there for each other when they come out as something. Because sometimes you find out that you're something after years, you know? Because like I said, our country, we're not exposed to that. So we had no knowledge about it. And the second thing is sexual health and mental health. Because back when I was in school, we weren't exposed to sex education. So when the number of the HIV positive patients are increasing, can you really blame us though? Because we didn't know what to do. Yeah, it's just bad. And I just wish that we were taught more about that. That's why I'm so happy that I was a part of this campaign called Honey Place Night. It was a social media campaign that talks about HIV and safe sex that was organized by NCHAT, APC, and USAID. I was so honored to be a part of it. And secondly, mental health. Mental health, it's always not talked about enough, because every time, especially us, every time we're trying to say something that we're not happy, we're stressed about people not accepting us, there are always people always come to us and be like, there are people who can't even find food. And I'm like, that's not how it works, but okay. You know, so this is like sexual health and mental health, not just for the LGBTI community. This is for people in general. I wish that people could teach me more about it, you know, instead of having me find out later what to do and how to protect myself and what I really am, you know.
Well, we do have, I'm pleased to hear you identify where some of the greatest needs are. We have some programming through USAID focusing on these issues, especially assistance for knowledge and awareness about safe sexual practices, and coping with some of those related challenges.
You are so supportive of the community, and that is so sweet. Like, I don't know the exact term, but to me, that is so sweet that people outside the community actually trying to support us and understand. I just really thank you, really thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing that.
Well, that's kind of you to observe, and I'm joined by many of my colleagues at the U.S. Embassy in this broad support.
I saw.
In part, it reflects our values as Americans, human rights and equality. Also, it's a matter of foreign policy to encourage respect and dignity for all people. And even within our mission, our U.S. Embassy community, we have many same-sex partners, and I'm really pleased we have a place to support them for employment, for living, and being equal contributors among our community. So I think it's safe to say we're all in this together. And that's why each year in June we increase our tempo, but I like to think that we are able to celebrate Pride throughout the entire year.
I'm so happy that people with big names like the U.S. Embassy, like you especially, using their names to actually fight for rights like that, because in Cambodia we so lack of the knowledge of the LGBTI that we only have one word to describe the community, and that is ktoi. That means faggot, and that's offensive. And now I get why people are afraid to come out, because they don't want to get judged, don't want to be judged by the public.
I hope a source of optimism and encouragement can come from the experience we had in the United States, because when I was your age, a little bit younger, I think it was quite similar in the United States. Right. But we've evolved and learned some lessons along the way. So I hope other societies that are interested in becoming more equal, more respectful, can look at our experience and kind of skip the 50 years.
Skip the 50 years
that it took to come around.
I honestly, I feel like as much as we want to skip that 15 years, 50?
It was a long time. It was a long time coming.
That long time, but I feel like we need that long time to change things little by little. Because if we, now we have no knowledge about it. If you want to just put that in their faces, it's just gonna be a waste of time, a waste of posts, a waste of message that they're just not just gonna go over their heads, over people's heads.
Sinora, that's a really good point.
Right,
you want to bring people along, not force them along.
Not force them along, and I feel like the only way to do that is to change little by little. A lot of people were offended that I'm the part of the community, and they think that I'm not doing enough. And I'm like, what's the point of doing so much and it's gonna go to waste? Why can't I just put stuff little by little into people's mind and teach them that it's okay to be different, And I think I have a way, but people always question me.
Well, I'll say this, in this society, it's very helpful to have brave and courageous individuals like yourself.
Thank you so much.
Who identify, who talk openly, but also use talents, your singing, your music, to be a figure and to message when there are opportunities. I have no doubt you may be changing some minds, but also that you are a source of inspiration to young people who, like you, at a younger age, are confused, who don't know where they can get support and help. And you no doubt you give them hope. You give them hope that they can have a successful future and a happy future.
I'm just happy that people with big names just starting to use their name to change now. Like before I actually speak up, not every day you would see people that would use their names, their faces to fight for the gay rights, to fight for the LGBTI rights. And that was kind of harsh when I first started, because people were like, what are you talking about, But I was trying my best to be like, please listen to me, give me a chance. And that's
why I use these words very purposefully, courage and bravery, because I'm sure it's not always easy.
Thank you. It's not always easy, and I gotta give myself credit for that. I gotta give myself credit for...
Sinora Roath, I want to thank you for joining me. What an opportunity and an honor.
What an honor for me.
So we honor each other.
We honor each other, yeah.
I want to wish you, friends and family, the very best Pride Month, and express to you our commitment from the U.S. Embassy to continue working with you and the rest of the community.
Thank you so much.
On achieving full respect, equality, and dignity for all of us.
There we go. See, that's why you listen to Mr. Ambassador, because he always have good advice for us, right? And just thank you so much for having me today. And it's an honor for me to be here talking to you about Pride. And I'm sure it's an honor for people in the community to know that you're also celebrating Pride, and people from the U.S. Embassy that's celebrating Pride as well. So just thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Akun Jarang.
Akun Jaran.